All right. So I'm going to rewind the stream just a little bit to make sure that we start at the very beginning of the next ordinance or the next item that they're going to discuss. And we'll jump into that together. There were a couple of real good items that we heard so far. It had to do with the budget shortfall. Secondly, a grant that had been applied for and action needed to be taken, in a memorandum that needs to be approved or needed to be approved for the surrounding cities. Third was is the budget for youth mental health and youth programs. And lastly, was solid waste and increasing the fee that solid waste currently has from whatever the number is to plus $12 more, which, ultimately one of the things that would benefit would be the employees of the solid waste here in Memphis. So let's jump on into the next thing and see what else we have on the docket.
Request for same 9 minutes. Appears all minds are clear. No objection. This item has been properly passed by this body with same 9 minutes.
All right, Darius Rogers, we're gonna get to it. Woo! You can work.
I do want to remind the members of this body. All right, so could we call, Madam Comptroller, can we call item number 32?
Item number 32 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of Memphis, Tennessee, governing motor vehicles and traffic, to amend registration fees, up for third and final reading. Ordinance number 5907 is sponsored by Councilwoman Green.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. Councilman Carlisle, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came down with a positive recommendation in an act and needs to be considered as amended from this afternoon's budget committee. I may have missed that, I'm sorry, but yes, as amended with the new schedule that members have, and I so move. Or nope.
Moved by Swearingen Washington, seconded by Warren. But before we go to anybody, I'm going to take you to the particular sponsor of this item because it's the chair's prerogative, Councilwoman Green.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, throughout this budget process, I have been looking both at how we can prioritize our funding, how we can make cuts to the budget to make sure that we are being responsible with dollars, but also new sources of revenue. The motor vehicle registration fees, the city's portion, has not been touched since 1982. I'm not going to call anybody out, but there are multiple members of this council that were not born yet. That's how long ago this was. And needless to say, inflation has gone up a lot since then. And so we have a schedule that has been proposed for both the motorcycles, passenger vehicles, et cetera, as well as commercial vehicles. And in general, there has been an alignment with other metropolitan areas in the state of Tennessee. That means increases. And in particular, we know that by increasing the passenger motor vehicle fee, we can bring in about $13 million. There's still some questions out there about how much more the other new amendments and new fees will bring in, but we know that it will generate more revenue. And hopefully it is revenue in the future that we can direct towards roads and towards public transportation, since these are vehicle fees. I have heard from my council members about, the burden that this will place on individuals, and I am not unsympathetic to that. I will note that there are rebate programs through the trustee's office, and I will also note that, for most people it is a passenger vehicle, and it's an increase in $30 for 1 year, and if you divide that out over 12 months, it's a cup of coffee. And so I'm proposing this in hopes that we can do everything we can to keep our taxes down.
$30 in 1 year, that's a lot of money.
And so with that, Chair, if there's any questions about the schedule or about the ordinance itself, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Councilwoman Green. We have one member in the queue, Councilwoman Cooper-Sutton. Councilwoman Cooper-Sutton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilwoman Green, for adding the commercial to this, especially fees, because if we're going to raise fees, as you understood and as we agreed to, and I'm glad we did come to a consensus, that it is going to be equal across the board for everyone. And hopefully this revenue that we see, that we keep promising the people, this revenue we will see put in action and will be used for the intent that we say it's used for. And so, once again, I'm going to keep echoing accountability and oversight, because this is what we said, and this is what we said we're going to promise the people here in Memphis. And so we're going to make sure that these fees are properly allocated where they're supposed to be, because we don't want the citizens to come back to the podium and call us liars. I know I don't. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cooper Sutton. It appears that all hearts and minds are clear. No comment cards on this particular item. Madam Comptroller, you know what to do. I thought you knew what to do.
Item number 33 is an ordinance to appropriate the proceeds of the tax levy on the assessed values of all properties of every species within the city limits of general purposes for the fiscal year.
So just a recap. Okay, so the last ordinance was there, and it's expressed because they want to raise the amount for vehicles. Raise the amount for passenger vehicles, motorcycles, and commercial vehicles here in Memphis. And it'll go into the roadways. It'll go into other things that have to pertain to our streets, our roads, so on and so forth. Again, another rate hike. I understand inflation. They said it hadn't been touched since 1982. Things become more expensive, so now they want us to pay more for our roads, so on and so forth. So, and Cooper Sutton actually had, or Miss Cooper Sutton, I'm sorry, actually had a great point to make sure that money is actually going to where it is actually allocated. Where we go wrong is when we have these rate hikes and we don't see changes out in the street, out in the community. They didn't vote on this, so we'll see where that ultimately ends up going.
July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, inclusive together with all collections from privilege licenses, fees, fines, permits, charges, revenue receipts of the city of Memphis for the fiscal year July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, inclusive to provide the manner in which monies may be transferred from one fund to another, and to provide the standard code or designations under which the appropriations are to be administered and accounting control maintained. Up for third and final reading, ordinance number 5903 is sponsored by the Finance Division, and this was held from June 4th.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. Councilman Carlisle, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met and sent this down, and I move it to the floor for hopefully final consideration.
Moved by Councilman Carlisle, seconded by Councilman Warren. With this budget ordinance, we're going to turn it over to the illustrious attorney, Alan Wade.
The subject of salary?
Yeah.
In January, we approved new directors, and those directors assumed the existing salaries of that position because our fiscal year does not coincide with the calendar year.
Right. Oh, Attorney Wade, we can't hear you. I would hate to say we're trying to turn it up, Tom.
I can yell.
Here we go. Perfect.
Good?
Yes, sir.
All right. In January of this year, you approved a new slate of directors, and those directors assumed the existing salaries of their predecessors. The way the charter works for directors, and under the paradigm that we now use are chiefs, those salaries cannot be changed during the fiscal year, and they can only be changed during the budget ordinance. So this ordinance is the one that sets the salaries going forward for the newly confirmed directors and chiefs. And it's this body that has the authority to set those salaries. So with that, I think this body needs to address those salaries at this time.
All right, what's happening? Brooke, can you pass out who we're passing them out? So coming before you is a resolution we passed, but there's been some amendments to the resolution setting salaries for all the chiefs and the directors of the city of Memphis. That's being passed out. It's sponsored by myself and sponsored by Councilman Vice Chairman Canali. I'm gonna quickly walk you through it, and then we will entertain some questions. We're gonna be brief, and I'm gonna call for the questions so we can take a vote and see what happens.
All right.
All right, so does everyone has the particular motion, the resolution? All right, so I'm gonna start talking while you get it. So long story short, council has authority to set salaries for all chiefs and deputy directors and division directors. We have the authority over the entire budget. Part of our responsibility as a body, and I don't think we've done it this way before, what usually happens is under the previous administration, the council would just approve the budget as given to by the mayor. We would never truly show the people the salaries that we were setting. I think what everybody talks about is transparency, and we want to have some type of reason for doing things. So, long story short, here's the changes. The COO salary is an increase to 185. The CFO 175. The Chief Legal Officer 175. The CCO Chief Communication Officer 165. The CIO 165. The Chief Human Resource Officer 160. The Chief of Staff 130. The Chief of Police 246. Fire Chief, 246. Public Works Director, 163. City Engineer, 145. General Services Director, 145. Library Director, 145. Solid Waste Director, 145. Parks, 145. Director of ACD, 135. Animal Service Director, 125. We've had several conversations, and what this salary setting resolution was aimed to do is try to capture the general sentiment of this body. And with that, it's already been moved by a councilman. It's already been moved. Any council members in the queue? Mayor Young, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
246
I wanted to comment on this. I know we went through
for
this
police and fire
momentarily in committee. There's a major issue that I have with it, so I just want you all to have it so you hear it from me as you go through your deliberation. And it's the salary regarding the chief of police. I understand the sentiment, which is that when you all, the previous body, so some of you all weren't here, but when the previous body approved salary increases for those departments, they were unaware that they applied to upper management. And I certainly understand the desire to correct that and the desire to make sure that moving forward, when you apply those increases, that they apply to those personnel that are not in upper management and that you can have a time when you make a decision on it. But given that the salary has been what it has been, it feels punitive to reduce someone's salary while they are continuing to act in the role. And so I want you all to just hear that from me directly, and I'll let the body make the decision that it decides to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Young. I do appreciate your comments. I've served on this body for a bit, and I do recall, I think it was Councilman Carlisle's proposal, and then I'm going to send it to Attorney Wade briefly, and then we're going to keep it moving. So what the council did under the Strickland administration, we thought it to be prudent to increase the general salaries for the rank and file, the folks who are out there in the communities fighting to keep our streets safe. I'm trying to make sure I choose my words to reflect accurately what happened. So these represent what I believe happened, no member of the body. When we made the vote for the general increase for what we believe to be simply the rank and file, what inadvertently happened with some coaching or suggestion from someone who served in various roles for the prior administration, what inadvertently happened, we inadvertently increased the salary for the person who serves in that role as well. I think that's the most accurate way to say how we reflect the will of the council. I don't want it to be considered as a decrease. It could be considered as a bonus, because what happened is we're essentially returning the salary to the salary that it was prior to the inadvertent 14% increase for that role. That's one thing. Two, what I will note about this particular One thing that I want to be certain of, I do want to know about this particular resolution setting salaries. Some good people did get raises. If you paid attention to this budget process, I don't think anyone's been here longer than the CFO, the COO, the CLO. She has an issues. But one thing I do want to know, and I think it was Councilwoman Logan who made a point of it, where does seniority fall in this? We have a fire chief who's been for the city of Memphis for 30 plus years, and by all accounts, when we look at the national standards, our fire department is among the best in the nation. I think that's something we need to consider. So what this does is it brings the fire chief and the police chief together. I think there was a way in 2016. I think it rights the ship. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to.
Hold on, is there a complaint that her paycheck is going to be $246,000 versus what it was before? Because remember, she got the 14% increase along with the rest of the rank and file. The entire police department got 14% increase, which included the chief of police position. And so I don't mean to single the chief of police out, but there shouldn't be. I don't see the problem. I understand, it's a lifestyle change and you feel like money's being taken away from you, so on and so forth. But at that amount of money, which a lot of people in Memphis are not making $250 almost $1,000, and I'm a city employee, it makes it difficult for me to be able to complain about making more than $250,000 or making $246,000. That sounds like a pretty good number to me. That's $250,000.
So we can continue talking. Sorry about continue talking, but getting us together. My bad.
I'm sure she has her reasons.
The decision of how much to allocate to each position is basically within your legislative discretion. I've looked at the current salaries. I've looked at the proposed under this resolution. It looks like there are only maybe 5 that are at issue. A lot of them are receiving significant increases. I think the logic that you've used seems to group everyone according to functions. So, I think it has a rational basis, but I understand the mayor's position is that, you don't want to decrease the salary of an existing person. But I think it was, there was some difference of opinion about the appointment of that director at the beginning of the process, and that director has been acting in an interim position. We never brought it back up to reevaluate that whole issue, and I don't think that's appropriate. But I think the council has the authority to make whatever decision it wants to make about these salaries. When we went to this chief paradigm under the prior administration, the charter talks about directors, and it gives specific instruction to this body and to the administration that once you set the salary for a director, and I call him a charter director, that salary cannot be diminished or increased during that fiscal year. It can only be diminished or increased on the succeeding fiscal year, and that's where we are now. It may be perceived as punitive, it may not be. There may be some parity argument that's being advanced. All of those are valid. I think it's up to you to vote your conscience about what you think is the appropriate thing to do. There are some of these chiefs that are not.
Wow. So I guess the argument is she's in the middle of her. She's an interim police chief right now. The Memphis police chief is in an interim designation. So it's viewed as a punitive action having her wages decreased. But since we don't have a voted and approved police chief at this point in time, my opinion would be make whatever changes need to be made, especially if this is the time to make them, and then vote someone into that position under that amount. Since we currently have an interim police chief, we're voting on the position. not on the person. So it makes sense to make the change as it's presented inside the Memphis City Council meeting.
Charter chiefs per se. And I think one of them is the chief of staff. I think the rest of them are, and there's some question in my mind about the HR director as well. So essentially those positions, the only one that the mayor has complete authority and control and you don't even have to approve them is the position that's now known as the COO. The CAO is what's identified in the charter, but the COO is it's a title only. But that position serves at the will and pleasure of the mayor only. You don't appoint them, you don't fire them, the mayor does so. That is exclusively within his domain. The rest of them have to be removed by you on his suggestion. Those others cannot be raised or lowered. Some of these others may be. So in order to put them on parity, these chiefs and directors and all of them, I think the budget ordinance talks about you cannot, the mayor can allocate $100,000 between line items except for personnel. Any changes in personnel have to come back to you. So notwithstanding whether they are chiefs or directors or charter chiefs, any change of what you said in this budget for anyone other than a charter director would have to come back to you anyway. So that's kind of the status of it. It needs to be addressed probably in every budget, depending on a number of different things. I mean, you evaluate whether someone's done the job or not done the job, but just to continue to have a salary is not a function that's mandated by the charter. It's basically your discretion to amend and approve all budgets, and how you do it is up to you.
Thank you, Attorney Wade. And I'm gonna go to Councilman Carlisle as it relates to other budget particular items that will be included by reference in the budget ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So colleagues, just a short recap. Right now, what is before the body is a amended ordinance based on the actions taken by the Budget Committee over the last couple months, but more specifically in the last 24 hours. And then if you'll write down fund balance contribution, $3,973,751, and then write 2.838. And then Affordable Housing Trust Fund, $1,400,000, and then write down 1.0. So we agreed as a body with 7 votes to reduce the materials and supplies by $2.5 million today. And I would propose that we reduce the tax rate by the proposed tax rate by 1.785 cents from the 55. On Councilman Ford's original resolution, you'll see that he nods that basically any overages from expenses would go into the future contribution of the assigned or unassigned fund balance. I would offer to Councilman Ford and the body as a friendly amendment to reduce that number from $13,973,751 to a flat $10 million. So that's your savings that I asked you to write down of the $3.9 million. And that reduces the tax rate by 2.838 cents. So we will still on an annual go forward basis be able to contribute $10 million back into the unassigned fund balance and or reappropriate that funding. On the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I caused a kerfuffle, and that's my fault. It's been a long couple days for all of us. So let me clear up what I'm asking the body to consider. The funds that were transferred last year will stay where they are, and they will stay committed to the projects that they have been committed to. In the mayor's proposal and Councilman Ford's proposal, they have a go-forward basis of an annual contribution of $5 million. For at least this year, because the body cannot be bound by future councils, I would ask the body to reduce that by 1.4 million, which is 1 cent on the tax. So therefore, this year's contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund will be $3.6 million, which just on that note alone, I was just leaning over to Councilman Logan, and we were talking about just the history of the fund. The fund didn't exist until about 4 years ago under the Strickland administration and had a few $100,000. And under that administration and Mayor Young's administration, the body has put well north of $10 million. I can't remember all the ARPA funding, but it's been the most significant step in that direction in the history of the city. And I think that that's something to be commended. And so, colleagues, when you add all that up, we have the opportunity to reduce the tax rate. It's about, well, I'm sorry, let me talk about hard numbers. When you add up those reductions, you'll get to $7.9 million off of the proposed budget for this year, which allows us to reduce the tax rate from 55 cents down to 49.376 cents. I know that's not the number that some of us were looking for, but it's the number that I hope that I can get at least 7 votes to get down to, and then we'll take any other action. But I would offer those to the body as amendments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Carlisle. To clear up what just transpired, the resolution setting the salaries was voted on in committee is included. It will be included in the budget ordinance. And Councilman Carlisle's amendment, which he just walked through, I think is before us now. Is anyone opposed to, we have a couple council members in the queue, Councilman Warren and Councilwoman Green. And
Thank you,
then
Mr. Chair. I take it that this particular budget includes the salary capping that was there because we haven't voted on it. So this is an add where we're talking.
Just clarify your question.
I got 2 questions. So we got this one here where we set the salaries for the chiefs, right?
Okay.
And that's in this.
Yes.
Okay. And my second question is the 1.4 million in the trust fund. Is that what we're going to be using for Hub North?
Yeah, well, let me say the way that I can answer it to you is that 3.6 million, or the whole 5 million, does not exist today. So my point to you is yes, what I would encourage you to do is that the money has now been appropriated to the if the council approves it, the money that you were seeking to then allocate and appropriate would need to be done so after the budget's approved. So my answer to you is yes, we're putting 3.6 million in the bucket of what has 4.2 in it, 3.8 is committed. I think that's right. So you'll have $4 million of uncommitted capital in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund on July 1.
As opposed to 5?
No. As opposed to what would be 9.2. You have 4.2 in today. 3.8 has been committed. So you have 400,000 of uncommitted capital today on June 25th. If the council approves this, then you will contribute another 3.6 million, which gives you 4 million of uncommitted capital. To which I think, Councilman Warren, what you're asking is do I need to bring a resolution to commit 1.2 or 1 million of that? And the answer would be yes, sir, you would. But the money would be there.
So I would like to add that as an amendment that is designated for operations for Hub Family Center North. As a friendly amendment.
Well, here's the deal. If I'm a little concerned, I need a second, first off, for my amendment.
I seconded you already.
All right, my bad. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. I have no issue with that. It's budget net neutral, colleagues. And here's the deal. Again, not to get Councilman Warren off his rocker here, but the body can always come back and take further action. But I accept that.
1 million.
Thank you, sir.
So we have 2 more council members in the queue. Council, I'm gonna remove you out of the queue once you speak, or you can take yourself out.
So this is all budgetary talk. Basically, it's already been established that there was going to be a tax increase, overall tax increase for residents. And so it sounds like the tax increase that had already been established at 55 cents or whatever the number was reduced by a few pennies. We'll see where all that money goes. I know a lot of different things were just named. But this is all budget discussion.
After you speak. Councilwoman Green, you're recognized.
Chair, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but you and I also co-sponsored a couple of resolutions that were passed favorably out of committee that have not been added to the budget as proposed at the moment. You included one of the resolutions that I proposed and this body passed was the reduction in the travel expenses, and that's a savings of $292,000 plus. That's incorporated. And then we also asked for them to look at the staffing services. I believe the resolution said to remove them, but at least 10% of the miscellaneous professional staffing has been worked in, and that's a $4.4 million savings. But there were 2 other resolutions that you and I co-sponsored. The first being 18 vacancies that are in the budget that are over 18 months. And I believe that we were told, we at least spoke to police about their need to keep what they saw as 109-ish vacancies and be able to reallocate them for full-time positions, so that would reduce their reliance on professional services. But we did not hear about the other positions or from the other divisions. And so to stay in line, and I'll just say I'm gonna do this on both of those resolutions, to stay in line with what the administration did on professional services, I would ask for a 10% reduction on any vacancies that are over 18 months. The same thing would be for the ARPA and CARES programming. I believe you asked that they all be funding removed because those are supposed to be temporary. And the administration came back and said that all need to be retained.
We can talk about the service reductions because we spoke about this in
I'm
the
still
committee.
speaking.
I'm sorry.
I'm still speaking.
This is really annoying. I'm sorry.
Come on, breathe.
I'm still.
Hold on.
Your floor is yours.
The,
He said
the
it's
other resolution that was
annoying.
passed by this body was a reduction in for full-time positions, so that would reduce the reliance on professional services. But we did not hear about the other positions or from the other divisions. And so to stay in line, and I'll just say I'm gonna do this on both of those resolutions, to stay in line with what the administration did on professional services, I would ask for a 10% reduction on any vacancies that are over 18 months. The same thing would be for the ARPA and CARES programming. I believe you asked that they all be funding removed because those were supposed to be temporary. And the administration came back and said that all need to be retained.
We can talk about the service reductions because we spoke about this in
I'm
the
still
committee.
speaking.
I'm sorry.
I'm still speaking.
This is really annoying. I'm sorry.
Come on, breathe.
I'm still. The
said
other
this is
resolution that was
really
passed by
annoying.
this body was a reduction in ARPA and CARES funding and programming. And again, to keep it in line with what they did with professional services, instead of a cut for all of them, I would propose a 10% cut for across the board. And I leave it to the administration's judgment and how they do those cuts. So again, I'm not sure that this was, this is the time, but those resolutions were passed out of committee and then never incorporated into any budget. And so I'm trying to find some sort of middle ground here where we are addressing the fact that there are some vacancies over 18 months and there are some ARPA and CARES funding programs that, we can't continue to fund indefinitely.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Green. I think Councilwoman Logan has a point of information. I will say her point of information. What Councilwoman Logan wants to know, she wants to know the suggestions, the proposed amendments you made to the budget on attachment A that we have. Is it on attachment A? And if it's not on attachment A, I'm assuming at some point we're gonna have to write it down so the council member know exactly what we're talking about. So we can take our time here, and it's okay. We are, in the words of Councilman Carlisle, we're making sausage.
And it's not. And again, it's because, we discussed in committee whether those had been incorporated, and the answers were no, they had not. But they still were passed out of this body, but they were passed to cut everything. And so I'm just trying to find a compromise, and I'm asking for just 10% reductions. Again, I'm just trying, and I leave it to the administration to figure out where's the best part that they should cut those.
I have a question, and I know some other council members have a queue, so I have a question as well. But I think to try to wrap our head around the proposed budget cuts, are you suggesting that are you suggesting that the funds that you're cutting go back into the general fund?
Yes, and then to be reduced off the tax rate.
Gotcha. Now, I'm asking, can you write it while you're talking out? Could you talk it out one more time so we can make some notes? And I know staff is trying to make notes, and then we're going to allow
Certainly.
Adams an opportunity to respond as well.
Yes.
All
So
right.
if you'll recall, you co-sponsored a resolution to remove any vacancies across all divisions that had been present for 18 months or longer. And I'm asking now that the administration reduce any vacancies 18 months or longer by 10%, and that money go back into the general fund to then reduce the tax rate. You also sponsored a resolution, and I co-sponsored, that was passed by this body to cut any and all programming and funding that was originally ARPA or CARES related. The administration came back and said all of those positions are still needed, and I'm asking for a 10% reduction, again, that will go back into general fund and then reduce the tax rate. This is in line with how they responded to our resolution to remove all staffing funding, and they came back with a 10% cut. So I'm just trying to make those other resolutions that this body passed in line, again, just to help reduce what we're spending. And I think, we talked through the reasoning behind 18 months. Is they've been there for so long. Are they going to use them? Are they going to fill them? We talked about the ARPA funding. Again, those were all programs that were put in place with COVID dollars, and we can't continue to operate as though we're going to continue to get those funds. So those are my motions. You can put them together or separate.
All right, so to reiterate Councilwoman Green's proposed amendments, and I do want to remind this body, all of her 2 proposed amendments in Budget Committee, we did vote to support, I guess, a total reduction of all of these things, and now what she's saying is based on what she heard from the administration, instead of a total cut, a 10% reduction. So that both of the particular items are vacancies that have been around for 18 months or longer, 10% reduction, and ARPA and federal dollars in response to COVID, a 10% reduction. Now we're going to give Chief Adams an opportunity to respond. We know we have some other council members who want to speak on a particular item.
Point of information.
Hold on, Chief Adams.
Yes, sir.
Just want to give deference to.
Quick point of information.
I know, but he was going to respond.
As we move forward, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Hyman. Can I get a motion and second for discussion purposes? I'm assuming it's moved by Councilwoman Green, and I was seconded, so we have an opportunity space to speak. Now we have a point of information from Dr. Warren.
Yes,
then we're going to allow Chief Adams an opportunity to speak. He's been waiting.
Mr. Chair, as we're moving forward, can we vote on each one of these motions separately as opposed to a package as we move forward? So
Councilwoman Green said she had no preference. Is anyone else who would like to separate both items? We have one. Yes. All right. To get together, do you want to?
No, I'm just saying, like the things that she came up. Let's vote on her motions together.
Okay, so you want to bring them together. Got it. I didn't understand you. Chief Adams. Okay. My apologies, Dr. Warren. I'm on the same page now. Chief Adams.
First, let me apologize. I mean, my emotions got the best of me. I apologize, Councilwoman Green. All right?
Look, Councilman Carlisle, buddy.
Yeah. So, right now, you got 121 vacancies over 18 days. 18 months, excuse me. A whopping 15 are outside of police. I have listened for the last couple of months for us talk about and admonish these directors for using professional services, staffing agencies, and say that we need to staff up and we need to pay these employees. You know why? Because they are underpaid. But now you want to take the positions.
So, Chief, you make that point. No, I want you to make that point. I get your argument, but
let me
get
there. Let me get there. Let me get it out. It's going to be therapeutic. It's going to be therapeutic. And in the past, we've talked about reallocating the money to the different employees. We've not done that. We've actually taken the positions and reallocated the positions to different divisions. That's what these directors have suffered through. I've seen where you said, you know what, these employees need money, to the tune that some of them got 5%, 6%, and 7% increases. But now we want to take the positions. So now I'm going to step aside, and I'm going to ask the city engineering, who has one position that's been open for 18 months, talk to us about their position, Director Boleen, and how critical, because Director Boleen is one of those directors that has to augment his services with professional services.
So I'm okay with you all speaking, but if you talk as long as Councilman Carlisle, I'm gonna accidentally hit the mute button. I told him they talk as long as you're gonna accidentally hit the mute button.
Sure. Thank you for the recognition. Manny Belen with the Division of Engineering. So the position that we have currently vacant is the Land Development Administrator. This position is a licensed engineer. It is a very difficult position to let go, simply because most of the developments that come through for improvements through the city goes through that office. So it's not for the lack of trying to acquire the personnel in, it's just to attract individuals to be able to do that work.
Question, just because I like to jot things down and I'm pretending to be Councilwoman Nisha Thomas, who takes great notes. How much money is allocated for that position? Is there a number, dollar amount set for it?
We'll have to get that.
Okay.
There is a budgetary dollars associated with that position, but again, the allocation that's currently for that position is not sufficient to attract the talent that we need to do that work.
Okay, all right. Next up, I feel like this is a line.
Next up, it's the Finance Division.
Walter, we heard from you, Chief Person.
Good evening again, Walter Person, Interim CFO. Relative to the open position.
Why do all CFOs have like a certain demeanor? It's funny.
We in finance are kind of an umbrella for a number of entities. We do support our Office of Business Diversity and Compliance, and they roll up to us in terms of financial operations. We also support the Division of Planning and Development. And I just want to point that out because from time to time, and this points out the complexities of budgeting. So from time to time, these individuals may have specialized positions that do take a long time. In terms of finance, the position that I've struggled the most with relative to this issue has been the comptroller position, which is a very specialized position. We've tried to hire comptrollers. We've struggled with the
reduce the role, but then we go out and we start recruiting for the role. There's no role to recruit for. There's no money to offer the person. There's no benchmark. We have to be realistic here. If we really want to attract the role, we need, as I stated last budget season, we need the position and we need the money.
All right, to be fair, I done heard enough, y'all.
You don't need any more?
No. Have a seat, Chief Adams. But we get
Yes, sir.
You made a good argument. I'm gonna.
And I'll say this. I understood the sentiment, so that's why we looked at reducing our part-time salary line. We wanted to comply, so what we did was we looked where in the personnel line we could reduce. So again, in being a good partner, we met you halfway, but I see our best wasn't good enough.
Not the sob story. Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Adams, for the argument. Thank you, division directors and chiefs, for supporting Chief Adams. All right, we have 2 council members in the queue. I'm going to call on those council members, or what I would like to see happen, you remove yourself from the queue and we just take a vote on this item. All right, we're going to limit your comments. If your comments are too long, I'm going to accidentally hit the mute button. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton, I know you're in the queue, man.
Thank you, Chair. My comments would not be.
No, she wants to talk.
Yeah.
Are you ready? She wants to talk. She wants to talk.
Talk is cheap. And bullshit is weak. We have sat in this council and talked about the pay rates and how underpaid Memphis, Tennessee is. How we don't pay people fairly for what they do. We have said that over and over and over and over again.
I don't want to
and
mess
here
up
we
her voice too
are,
much. That's speeding that
taking
up.
positions from very important departments and divisions. We say one thing in committee, then you get up here and you all play a lot of games. And then we find out at the last minute, and I ask you, and just to be honest, can we just be honest? Stop playing with people's lives. This is not a chess game. Stop moving parts where you think you and your buddy, you and your partner, y'all get together and you team up together and you do things that are unrighteous and ungodly and unfair and unjust to people. And then you go behind and it's that's so unfair, that's so ugly, that's so evil. Stop it. These people need these positions.
Oh, man.
And if you pay them like they're supposed to pay, we probably get qualified, skillful people here in Memphis for these positions. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cooper Sutton. We have a point of information from Councilwoman Nisha Thomas. And
So she definitely had eye contact. That's 100%
All right, so
sure.
now remove you from the queue. Just come to you. All right, Councilwoman Nisha Thomas, point of information.
Thank you, Chair. So when you said vote for the item, to be clear, we're voting on motions because we're still just on one single item, which is the budget.
Well, yes, we're voting on her motion to amend. That's what we're voting on now.
Just want to be clear. Thank you.
That's a very good point, Councilwoman Nisha Thomas, because I understand. Very good point. Thank you for that. All right, we have Councilwoman Logan. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to remind my colleagues that we did address these issues in committee. Chief came and noted for us, they presented what they could do, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't in the manner in which it was understood, but I do recall us talking about the importance of those positions and how they could not, some of them could not be, especially in finance, that we were by law, had to have some of these positions because of a mandate by the comptroller and different areas. So I know we've talked about a lot. I know we've gone back and forth, and some of the things that we asked for, we didn't get when we asked, and they came back later and may not have understood, but I definitely don't want the public to think that they can't trust the leadership. This has been a daunting process, but I think everyone is trying, and I want to make sure that we keep that in mind. It's my understanding that the last thing that we have here was supposed to be inclusive of all those areas. I do recall Chief Adams coming to us and talking about the part-time. They cut out some of the part-times, and that was their understanding of the role that they were supposed to play in reducing those positions. So just wanted to note that for everybody. I don't think anybody was, has done anything intentionally or trying to mislead anyone. So we're going going to continue to let level heads prevail and look at, I would like for us to read, if there are any questions about where those reductions are. I think that's a fair question. Where does this reflect the things that you asked for, as opposed to saying strike 10% of all the positions, because we don't know what the positions are, and they, might be critical to service delivery. So just wanted to put that point there, but I do appreciate everybody wanting to make certain that we bake everything into this before we stop. All righty, brevity is key. Thank you so much. Are you back, Chair?
Councilwoman Logan, I value you, and I believe that this may be the shortest line of comments you've ever made. Appreciate that. I still don't understand why the screen. So, Madam Comptroller, is there a way that we can address who the current speaker is? On my screen, it says Councilwoman Green. After hearing the comments, are you want to speak to this, or you have something different? Yes, sir. All right. So, Councilwoman Green.
All night, this and that and the other. We're trying to take care of some business, okay?
I wholeheartly agree.
Thank you, Councilwoman Logan. We talked about all of those different things.
He has no mic on right now.
Talked about it. A lot of y'all don't be there. You walk out all the time, so you miss everything too. And I'm pointing, I'm sorry for giving me a point. I'm going back 20-some years. I like to let everybody know who I'm talking about. I don't want them to make no mistake. Okay? Walk out this, that, and the other. You don't know what's going on. Thank you, Councilwoman Logan. We talked about all those different things. I want to bring something up later. All of a sudden, to just be talking, to be seen, listen to these people. I want y'all to remember everybody that's talking today, just to be seen and heard and not take care of nothing. I want everybody to understand that today. We can visit what you want later, because y'all want to bring up just to hold things up. And Councilman Spinoza, I know you're getting ready to try to do something to hold something up too, but I like to go back to the first motion. I'd like for her, to withdraw where we can get to the real business at hand, because like I said, game day over for me. I'm trying to be for real. Everybody's trying to be for real. I don't think nobody's trying to hide anything. We're trying to bring everything forth and see. 3 years ago, we should have been here. We didn't do it. And I don't want to knock the past mayor, but and COVID took us way, 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 way. Money was here, money was there. Not only here, it was at everybody's house. And don't have a lot of children. Everybody got a check. That's why you can't get half these people to go to work no more. I'm just being honest with you. It was too good. But now we got to realize our money's gone. We got to start all back.
Hey, man. He started that conversation off pointing at people. Which, if you're going to speak directly. We want to know who you're talking about. And obviously he has a lot to say. I don't know what this has to do about the budget, but it's entertaining.
Back over. We were deep, deep, deep in debt. We're trying to get out of it. Other than that, we can close the whole city down and won't nobody have nothing. We can try to have something this year, and next year, things would be much better. But we need to operate this city. Don't nobody want to go up. I don't want to go up on no taxes for nobody. But some of y'all need to pay some of these taxes, especially the ones that's wealthy, just like what you brought. Hey, with people paying all these fees, we're going to get some slack on that. They're not going to want to. They're going to put anything to the side to make sure that they don't pay it. But, hey, whatever we can bring in, let's put it back where we can address it again after this budget. Let's be for real. Because once the budget do pass, everything else, everybody that voted against gonna get all the place that, hey, they're gonna look better than me trying to work with this budget. I'm just being honest, because you were in the doggone TV, media, everywhere else, trying to be seen and heard. That's all you're trying to do. But like I said, you made that statement. We talked about everything. Working on this budget, why were you? Did you really care? I'm being honest. Councilman Spinoza, I'm talking.
Yeah, so, and also, a lot of these decisions or things that are brought before the Memphis City Council are obviously taken care of in the committee meetings. So we may not see, how they got to these numbers or what certain numbers go to. But that's where the work happens in the committees and then is brought before the council.
Talking to you now. Where were you? Well, don't answer me, because I got the floor. Okay? Because you're going to be a no vote no matter what. But there's going to be a few more that's going to be no votes. But budget passed, y'all going to be the first ones out there trying to get on the camera. Y'all laughing, but I'm serious. That's the truth. You know, I don't like camera. All y'all cameramen know, don't talk to me. Y'all already know. But they love the camera. Okay? After this budget, they want to go party. So, but you ain't spend no time trying to work on no budget. You know, that kind of bothers me. And you know, and since the people listening now, let me just say this. We've been working on the budget for a long time. We really didn't work on it because everybody had something else to do. We can't never accomplish nothing. Now you want to, the last moment, you want to be seen, heard, and that's kind of sad. You know, I could go on and I don't want to get upset today, but I think we need to go on and pass this budget, go further, and move on. Let all these city employees get their raises where they can go and, hey, go home and take something to their families. And especially, you know, something I don't want to do now. I told y'all I don't want to be black. We've been neglected a long time. Black folk. I come from, and I'm old, so I know. And you know, I don't have any animosity against black, white, blue, or green. Everybody's the same to me. Right. But you know, some folks, it's a different story before. But we were on the same accord when it came down to the city of Memphis. Okay? But I look at it now, it's a different story. Man, it's about, hey, I'm here for right now, but once I get, then I can go about my business, and I really don't care about anything, okay? But I'm gonna be quiet, but I'm ready to vote for what we have here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Ford. Councilman Spinoza, the floor is yours. And Councilman, don't get in the, on, I mean, oh, that's right. Thank you for giving me the, on hers, and then I'm gonna bring up. Thank you for giving me, because you're absolutely correct, Councilman Spinoza. Councilwoman Green, where are you? Would you like a voting item?
Thank you for recognizing me, Chair. And I just want to say to everyone up here that I believe everyone on this council is here for the right reasons. I don't question anyone's motives or their work ethic. I believe everyone up here is working hard. And I know I have. And one of these resolutions was mine. And again, I think the police director did talk to us about it, but we did not talk about the other divisions. And the other resolution, which was about ARPA funding, I still haven't had anyone talk to us about, other than I was told that a lot of it had to go to reentry services, and they didn't want to cut that, which I, of course, have been a champion for, you know, as a former public defender. I also have a constituency. And lest anyone think that I live in some rich enclave in East Memphis and don't get out into the community, please understand District 2 represents Cordova and Hickory Hill as well. And I believe it is my duty here as a Memphian to fight for all of us to have a better Memphis. You know, Councilwoman Pearl Eva Walker always says Team Memphis. I'm Team Memphis too. And part of what we have been—
one Memphis, not Team Memphis.
Come on.
What we have always been doing up here is talking about people holding account. We have clearly uncovered multiple times when the past administration and the past council have due diligence. And so I am trying to do my due diligence, which is to say, if we have jobs that have been open for 18 months, do we actually need them? And I'm not saying which ones need to be cut. I believe the administration could figure that out. And I didn't ask for all of them to be cut. I said 10%. The same with ARPA funding. We have said over and over again, the COVID money is out. It is gone. And if we continue to budget like it is still there, we are going to bankrupt this city. And so I'll happily withdraw my motions today because the intentions of this council are clear. But I want you to understand my motives. Chief, if my motions are getting strong, understand that I am talking to people in the community. I am out at neighborhood association meetings, at events, in police stations, in fire stations. I am talking to people about what they're experiencing out there, and they're saying, please don't raise my taxes. I don't know how I'm gonna afford it. I'm a retiree. I'm already on a limited income. They're saying, I'm a renter. I know my rent is gonna go up, and I can't afford it. They're saying, you know what? Crime is already so bad in the city, I can't afford to move, and I'm going to. They're saying I own a small business and it's a brick and mortar, and this is going to make it hard for me to operate my business. So I am trying to do everything I can to keep those people, their talents, their children in Memphis. That's what I'm working towards. I'm not working against you. I'm working with you. and I thought our ask was reasonable, and I apologize if I didn't think that you telling me it wasn't included in your budget wasn't a full explanation. But I would trust you to figure out if it's 120 positions, that's 2 positions throughout the whole city government that have been open for over 18 months that we could get rid of. But since this body doesn't seem to want to go any further, and they're fine with the tax rate being what it is, I want you to know that I've done my part to fight for those who have been asking me not to raise their taxes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Green.
I guess you got a little annoyed by that one, did you?
All right, Councilwoman White. Councilman Ford, are you in the queue? I can't tell. All right, so you're not in the queue. My apologies. Let me remove you. All right, so Councilman Espinoza, the floor is yours. Councilwoman Green has withdrew her motion. She withdrew it.
Withdrawn. She's withdrawn.
Did I forget anything? So Councilwoman Green has withdrew her motion. Now, Councilman Espinoza was in the queue.
And I'm asking the administration to do this, and I think you'll probably agree to this. The attrition line, which has been a much complicated and discussed line from the previous administration, you guys have it listed at 5.7%, correct? Chairman, would you mind to have
Chief Adams, could you come and try to, Chief Adams and Chief Person come and try to provide responses to Councilman Espinoza and make sure the administration has copies of the resolution that's being passed out, as well as members of the media.
If I could get a copy of the resolution, that would help me to be a little more intelligent about answering any questions.
Yeah, thank you. And again, the way this budget process is going, I waited until today because there were so many moving parts to it. So again, this is like a real request. I can assure you, well, I'll refrain from saying that, but so what you see in front of you is an ask to adjust the attrition line. The administration has 5.7% in the budget. I have down here to add 3.5%, okay? So the intent of the council that the funds allocated to the attrition line, item number 051901, be adjusted by 3.5% to reflect the amount of a negative $58,954,898. I'm asking the body to consider this.
Yeah.
And what that will do is give us $19,600,000 to be taken off the tax rate. So we'll reduce it by 14 cents. And then the remaining amount of $2,697,000, $2,697,574 be applied to general services and earmarked to specifically buy MPD patrol vehicles. That's the ask, and I would humbly ask you all to consider that.
Thank you, Councilman Espinoza. Councilman Espinoza, can you move it, and then can we get a second, and then I'm gonna go to the administration for, can you move it electronically? Moved by Councilman Espinoza, seconded by Dr. Warren. I think council members take a minute to digest the resolution to amend our operating budget. I'm just gonna read it for general public, and then I'm gonna go to Chief Person and Chief Adams to kind of explain what we're looking at. And thank you, Councilman Espinoza, for working hard to find ways to reduce costs. So I'm gonna read the last, I'm gonna read it all. Whereas the mayor submitted to the council of the city of Memphis on April 9, 2024, recommended operating budget and capital improvement program budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. And whereas the budget committee of the council has held meetings and thoroughly reviewed the recommended operating and capital improvement program budgets and will make approved revisions thereto. And whereas the council has identified a need for funds to be allocated and managed responsibly in a way that best serves the city of Memphis and significantly contributes to its growth and development. And whereas it is intent of the council that the funds allocated to the attrition line, item 051901, be adjusted by 3.5% to reflect the amount of negative $58,954,898. Now therefore be it resolved, the Memphis City Council hereby amends operating for fiscal year 25 by adjusting attrition rate from negative $36,657,324 to $58,954,898, resulting in lowering of the personal expenses by $22,297,574 effective upon approval of this resolution, and to be incorporated into Ordinance 5903, an ordinance of the City of Memphis adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2004, sponsored Councilman Espinoza. So I'm going to ask 2 questions to make it plain for the people of Memphis. I would say be brief, but I don't think it's possible when you're dealing with the level of complexities that this requires. So 1, explain attrition, And then two, talk about the
There's that
effect,
attrition word
of this resolution on
So,
the budget, and also
we get to find out exactly what that
briefly
is right
explain
here.
attrition to either chief, and then talk about the effect of this resolution, and then hopefully we can be in a position to sum up all the budget changes, and then so we know where we are, and then cast a vote. That's the goal. So, chief person, the floor is yours, and then Adam, y'all can toss it back and forth to each other. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Espinoza, for
Yes, sir.
Issuing this resolution.
Hey, and thank you, too, by the way, for hard work. I'm serious. Thanks.
Yes, sir, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the collaborative effort that we've all experienced and demonstrated. With attrition, and we start getting into kind of an academic approach to accounting. So attrition is a mathematical formula to try to estimate the impact of vacancies, retirements, absences, prolonged absences within a workforce. And what it is a negative amount that negatively impacts your personnel salaries. So if you think about it from an operations standpoint, you may have $100,000 worth of employees, and you have a funding line that pays for that $100,000 worth of employees. But you know over time, you're gonna have people come and go. You're gonna have people that retire, get another job. A variety of things may happen. That may result in any given time, maybe out of that 10, say, employees, you're only gonna have really 8. And because you're gonna have fluctuations with people coming and going, you're gonna have that vacancy space. And so what attrition tends to do is reduce your personnel line to account for those vacancies. And what this proposal will do is to reduce the amount of personnel expenses we have, with the suggestion being that instead of $36 million worth of vacancies over the next fiscal year, we'll experience close to $60 million worth of vacancies, which is a pretty substantial increase. And what that has, how that impacts us is, unless we have $60 million worth of vacancies, we will under budget for our employee base. That means our divisions will not be able to fully fund the employees that they have on staff unless they have this large amount of vacancies over time. Now, if you look back at our previous budget, you'll see that last year we funded attrition at about almost $54 million. And one of the things that you're seeing this year that has been alluded to by several council people, I think I remember Councilwoman Green most specifically focusing on how frustrated she was with the fact that we have been consistently under budgeted.
Walter, real quick, if you don't mind, I think it would be important to explain, and I appreciate you explaining it like that. The previous administration had attrition as like a floating. You want to explain that as well, how the previous administration did it a different way? And I agree, I like the way that you all are doing it on the front end as like a FIFO versus a LIFO, to use an accounting term. But the personnel, which I've agreed with, that your personnel expense has gone up as well. We all agree on that. All I'm asking is that we raise it not even as much, because I'm taking some out and putting it into general services for police vehicles. So there is a difference between the way the previous administration did it, and I like the way that y'all are doing it. But if managed properly, we should be good with a small increase.
Well, so let me speak, and then I'm going to allow you opportunity to speak. So we're at 7:07. We're not the county commission. We're getting to the point that we're going to take a vote here soon. We're not going to cut people off. And going forward, he gave an excellent explanation for, and I understand what Councilman Espinoza is attempting to do, because the administrations have handled this budget process completely different. And I do believe that this council appreciates the way that the transparency and this administration's attempt to try to get us information as promptly as they could, although it's been frustrating at times. We understand the predicament that you all are in. And I don't think this council looks negatively upon this administration. To be very frank, and I tell this to everyone, I truly appreciate this administration and how y'all operate, and I believe in candor. And what y'all present to us, y'all truly believe that it's in the best. We may disagree, but I truly believe you all. So I'm gonna let y'all talk. I'm gonna let Councilman Espinoza respond. Hopefully there's a couple other council members in the queue, I believe, unless it was an accident again, and then we're gonna try to take a vote, okay? All right, so please finish explaining. I'm not sure if Chief Person.
Yeah, well, I'll wind it up by just simply saying that when you look at it, you're talking about a $22 million increase. And unless we have that requisite level of increase in our absentees, vacancies, and so forth, we're going to be under budgeted. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. So explain under budget.
We're back here again at Q4, doing the same thing again. All right, we did this last year, June 13th, you brought $7 million for fire. You had $9 million in personnel for police. You had general services back here again last year in 2023. Now we're back here again. This year in general services, we were able to adjust their budget, but we had to ask you to budget just for attrition. $3 million of attrition, and they only started out with $1 million of vacancies. Wait. Public Works had $3 million of attrition and did not have that much in vacancies.
The way that it was done before snowballed.
This is
Y'all
where
are
we're
doing
not
it differently and doing it the right way.
Councilman
I mean, and I hear you, but if
all right, so I'm going to hold this gavel up, and this is what we're not going to do. When the chair speaks, we're going to respect the chair. Or I'm just going to mute everybody, and then we're just going to take a vote, and I'll act like I don't know one's talking. So this is what we're not going to do. We're going to allow Chief Adams to finish his comments. And I have a question whenever you finish. Yeah. But while could you incorporate the answer to my question in your responses? My question is, and I think this is where you're getting, and I'm just trying to make it simple for everyone, because we're talking high level, and you're losing me at some point. Do you believe if the council votes for this, and I want Councilman Espinosa to end it because this is his proposal. If we vote for this, do you believe that we will, a year from now, we'll be back here pulling money from the unassigned fund balance? I don't know the answer to that question.
It is likely. It is very likely that will happen. And I will say to you as well, the full-time salary lines will look akin to what Councilman Ford Canale mentioned in committee, where attrition is net against your full-time salary lines, because you have to account for attrition in your personnel line.
Okay, thank you, Chief Adams. Thank you, Chief Person. I'm going to return it back to the maker of the motion, but we do have Councilman Warren in the queue. I think he has a question.
Thank you. You want Councilman Warren? And one other thing, just to note, the amount of $22,297,000, that is not all going to personnel, because I've pulled out $2,697,574 to go to general services specifically for police vehicles. So a humble ask of the peer council member.
Skipping forward just a
if
little
you
bit.
could tell me why you chose that over what the administration did.
Absolutely.
And give me some sort of thought process. I'd like to know that.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. A natural, normal attrition rate, if you were to look it up, municipalities is around 10%. The Strickland administration had it at 9.2%. So being cognizant and aware of the administration and the council, I think they've undershot it at 5.2%.
But at 9.2% last year, we ended up having all these other departments that had attrition rates that were too high, and we had to pay $30 million out of the general fund this year.
Right, but it was a snowball effect of years of the administration piling it on as they did, and we've all had to deal with that. They piled it on for 8 years, and we're not doing that here anymore. So it shouldn't be an issue.
So let me
go
ahead, because I'm still trying to. So I want either one of y'all can answer this question. I appreciate the dialogue between you two. What I don't understand about this current proposal. So Chief Adams said that we'll be potentially pulling out of the fund balance. And then what you just said is this has been years of continuing to increase the attrition line item, which led us to the place that we are in, which isn't the best. That's the nicest way that I can put it. What's different about what the previous administration did that led us here than what you're proposing now? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I would like for the administration to tell us the difference in the way that you're accounting for attrition versus the way they did it in the past.
And this is me just trying to figure it out because this vote
I still have the floor, though, right?
So the floor is going back to Dr. Warren.
Yeah.
But I just want to. This vote is really important, Council.
Yeah.
So I want you to just listen to what's being said and make an informed decision, because I hate to echo Councilman Carlisle because he feels good when I say his name, but if we mess up, it can have dire consequences. So Chief Adams.
So Chief, I guess my question is, what would be an increase in this sort of attrition rate that you think would be reasonable based on where you are? And if so, why would you think you could make an increase, and why couldn't you? Why is this scary to us right now?
So we believe that this is the highest attrition rate that's reasonable for the administration. Here are the factors that we consider. We have, in the police division, we have reduced the funding, not the vacancy, of over 300 positions. So you don't have those vacancies, those funded vacancies now to go back and capture for that. We have adjusted in those divisions to true up overtime spending. One of the things that we are going to do is we are going to exercise much more discipline with regard to overtime. You will see that overtime has been increased in the divisions as well, throughout each division. So overtime will be exercised with a lot more discipline and restraint. So those are two important factors that really affect this attrition.
Thank you, Chief. So it sounds like that, Councilman Spencer, it sounds like perhaps, I was waiting. It sounds like perhaps what they're saying is, I think maybe you prepared this in a way that it might have been better in the past administration, and I think none of us want to see $30 million. Worst case scenario, you're right. And at the end of next year, we've got more money to put in the general fund and to do other things. And then we can think about, we're coming up on a debt cliff. What can we do about a tax refund if that's a time that we can do it and balance the budget? So I'm looking at, they got 2 years to make it through. So I would think that we don't want to do this now, but we need to look and see how their accounting actually works for a year before we decide to move. So I appreciate your thought, but I would recommend that we don't do it for that reason. Thank you.
The fire department. So is it safe to say that that could be where that equals out in the end?
Say it again. I mean, run the numbers again.
From what Councilman Spinoza is saying, with the attrition, he thinks that the attrition should be higher, the rate. We're going to spend $72 million in overtime in FY24, but only budgeted 40. Some of the attrition we plugged in, other we had to take out of the unassigned, like we did today for the police department. We only projected $54 million overtime spend in 25. It's highly unlikely that it's going to drop $18 million from FY24. So the attrition rate from the administration projected lower than what Councilman Spinoza is saying would be used to plug that hole.
So you're going to also net your attrition. Don't forget, you start out netting your attrition at the beginning of the year against your full-time salary. So you don't have your vacancies to capture your overtime. So we think and believe, after talking to the division directors, we have trued up our overtime.
Okay, well, that's good news. So if you think that we can drop it by, $18 million, and I think that's great. But is it wishful thinking?
I'm not going to say it's wishful thinking. It's our goal and our target.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Warren. And I guess I'm mute happy today. I muted myself. Thank you, Councilman Canale. Councilman Ford, would you like to?
Put numbers down that don't mean anything because you don't know. We're not going to know today. No way in the world. He don't know. Like I said, very clever. It's not time to be clever. I'm just being honest with you. I like you, but please, I'm through. It's time to vote this down and let's get to where we're going.
All right, thank you, Councilman Ford. All right.
I got one more thing.
Oh, I was getting ready to meet
I really
you.
got one more thing because I'm having a flashback from this morning. And everybody don't want me to say, you made a statement this morning and I really didn't like it. Okay? You talking about we'll vote this, that, and the other. You should have kept that to yourself.
Definitely point at you.
Went out, took you a little drink, come on back. But what you said was very insulting to me. And if any black person, it should have been insulting to them.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that, and you're still trying to insult me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ford. All right, so I'm going to make a general statement, and if you want to be mad at Councilman Smiley, I don't really care. So going forward, we won't address any particular person in a demeaning way. That goes for audience members. That also goes to the council. We're going to respect each other today. That's just where we're going to be. We can have a difference of opinion, and I'm going to pick on Chief Adams because he has thick skin. I appreciate Chief Adams, one, because he makes sound arguments, but two, because he understands how to disagree with me, but do it in a very respectful way. I respect Mayor Young because he can disagree with me, but he's going to do it in a very respectful manner. I think going forward, we all have to be mindful that reasonable minds can disagree, but that's a part of the process. We have to develop. We're going to call special item number. I have no idea what.
Cooper Sutton, no. Easter Thomas, no. Ford, no. Green, yes. Logan, no. Spinoza, yes. Swearingen, Washington, no. Walker, no. White, no. Warren, no. Chairman Smiley, no.
This item fails, and I just want to make a general comment. I voted against this particular motion not because because there was anything I thought to be wrong with the proposed motion. I voted against this particular item because, for me, I wasn't comfortable voting because I do not know the financial impact it could potentially have on the city of Memphis. I just think it was incredibly tough to talk about playing with the budget at a rate of about 20 to 30 million, and I just don't know what happens if we do that. And I don't want to end back here again where we're pulling money out of the fund balance and potential a very eager comptroller could come knocking on our door. So I'm concerned, but I do like to note that I do believe Councilman Spinoza heart was in the right place. All right, so we're back to the main motion. I think Councilman Carlisle's in the queue, and I was literally going to
So the amendment
Go ahead, Councilman Carlisle, go ahead. Oh, your mic's not on? My apologies.
Mr. Chairman, I move the previous question. Do you have a second?
Second. So is there, hold up. No, okay. Canelli's messing with me. All right.
I just want to be abundantly clear about which ordinance you were voting on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Councilwoman Brookhyman is lecturing us today. All right, council members. Can we get a point of information? All right.
I need one of those little 5-second fast
The
forward.
collective bargaining units that represent their groups got to impasse. They wanted 5%. They couldn't come to an agreement. The Memphis City Council sided with the collective bargaining units to raise salaries by 5%. So there was an increase from the original proposed budget to this budget by roughly $13 million. That was the question, and that's the answer. I just wanted it to be out there.
Wade, because he's looking at me like, he said just vote. Okay, Attorney Wade, I'm sorry. Council members are trying to be abundantly clear on what we're voting on. All right, y'all. Yes, all right, Madam Comptroller. The answer is yes, Councilwoman Cooper Sutton. Madam Comptroller, hold up. We have a couple coming cards, and I have to find them in the middle. I miss, and I'm muting everybody again to my side chatter. Charles Blinkley, 2 minutes on the clock. Charles, are you?
I'll skip through any of the public that wants to speak specifically on this.
The proclaimed state public money cop only has 2 people out of 2 people deployed here in Memphis, where there's 600 deployed across the state. So we're not getting state public money cop oversight here on public money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. That is the last coming card. Madam Comptroller, could you please prepare the screen for the vote? Council members, and prepare the screen for a vote. Council members, if you're not seated,
Council members,
please
please cast your votes for item number.
Council members, we're about to go live. Has every council member voted?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and the votes are Canali, no. Carlisle, no. Cooper Sutton, yes. Easter Thomas, yes. Ford, yes. Green, no. Logan, yes. Spinoza, no. Swearingen Washington, yes. Walker, yes. White, yes. Warren, yes. Chairman Smiley, no.
Council, you have passed your first budget. This item passes. All right, gotta unmute you, sir, because everyone's muted. Go ahead, Councilman Carlisle.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that this item be adopted with same 9 minutes. I'm sorry.
It was already done. It was already done with same 9 minutes.
We had mistakes once last year.
That is fair. All right, council members.
The tax precinct resolution.
It's number 41. I said same 9 minutes in my comments at least I believe I said it in my comments. Madam Comptroller, could you please call item number 31. Take a second.
Item number 31 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of Memphis, Tennessee, governing motor vehicles and traffic, to authorize the city court clerk's office to accept partial payments for traffic citations. Up for third and final reading, ordinance number 5906 is sponsored by Councilwoman Green.
All right, council members.
All right, so the budget passed. It looks like, there was a couple of amendments that were presented to be added to the current budget. and they passed at the end of the day. So you know what? We're all at the mercy of our representatives right now when it comes to the budget. Any rate increases. I know a couple of them put motions in front of the board to decrease the amount of taxes on the raised number that was presented, but I think both of those failed, if I'm not mistaken. So it should be interesting to see how all of this, what the fallout is from our current budget. It's good. We have record of it now. We can go back and look to see next year or in a couple of months to see, what's actually happening. And we can break down, the paperwork and actually see the details, which might be something to do, in the future. But as of right now, it's informative. It's good information. Right now they're talking about another item. So we'll get into that, and then we should be closing the Memphis City Council meeting out for June 25th.
Is anyone in the queue regarding this particular item? Well,
hold on, I got to move it.
Councilman Carlisle.
Mr. Chairman, the committee met recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Carlisle, seconded by Councilman Warren. Is anybody in the queue on this particular item? No one's in the queue. Madam Comptroller, could you please prepare the screen for a vote? Point of information from Councilwoman Easter Thomas before we vote. Councilwoman Easter Thomas, please let me unmute you. Go ahead, Councilwoman Easter Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I thought this ends at June 30th. What's the date, applicable date on this ordinance? Because I thought it was over.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Green.
So we did a resolution to have amnesty period run from May 21st to June 31st. This gives us the ability to do this anytime we want to again. So every year, if we want to have an amnesty period, we can. So this ordinance puts that in place.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
You're right.
Councilwoman Easter Thomas, thank you. Councilwoman Green. Doesn't appear to anybody. Councilman, please cast your vote.
Canale, yes. Carlisle, yes. Cooper Sutton, no. Ford, yes. Green, yes. Logan, yes. Spinoza, no. Swearingen, Washington, no. Walker, yes. Warren, yes. And Chairman Smiley, yes. Please show Councilmember Walker is voting yes, and please show Easter. Walker is voting no on this item, and Easter Thomas is voting yes.
31. All right, thank you. This item passes. Madam Comptroller, could you please call item number 35?
Yeah, so we'll cut it there. I think there's only a couple more items left in this city council meeting. That was a lot to digest, just from the budget piece, and that's why a lot of people don't watch the council meetings, because they're so drawn out, and even the language in the council meetings is convoluted, because you're not getting all the information. If you're not in the committee meetings, which probably go into more detail, which ultimately will go into more detail, you're not getting the details. You're not getting into the weeds of things. So what you get at the council meeting when they're finally going to vote or argue one point or the other, is a 30,000-foot view of what's on the table. Still good information. And as things happen down the line, we'll be able to look at what happened during council meetings and marry it back to things that happen in the future. All information is good information in my mind. So we'll jump into future council meetings. We'll jump into the last part of this one also, and hopefully we can pull something away from it. I hope something positive happened here as far as what has been heard up until this point. I can't necessarily say anything positive from what was done during this meeting, but time will tell at the end of the day. So, hey, we're all along for the ride.